Ordinance regulating fireworks in Oldham County. I'd like to ask Magistrate Leslie of Public Safety Committee to please make some remarks.
Yes, Judge, you'd come to me several months ago in reference to having a fireworks ordinance. And so the chief of police came up with several ordinances from other areas, and we took one from Henderson and we adapted it to the Oldham County specifically. There will be in the future a resolution that will address the permit cost to anyone who wants to shoot off those, and it's kept separate from this. So if we feel that in the future that we want to change the cost structure, we can do it by resolution rather than having two readings for an ordinance change. So this document has been changed about 7 times. Today, I believe, Bob Dye came up and had several formatting changes that he had requested, and the chief discussed those with them, and I think he discussed it with me, and I don't have any disagreement with Magistrate Dye's changes. But on the whole, I think this is a good ordinance, and it gives officers some discretion on how they handle various questions. I want to thank the chief of the police and his staff for all the work that they've put into this, and they've put in a lot. And so if anybody has a question, the chief is here to answer any questions that anybody has. And then from that point, Judge, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can go ahead and read this and we can discuss it.
All right, I'd like to ask everybody to follow through with me, and then we can discuss this after it's read. If anyone has any changes they would like to propose at that time, I'd like to request they do so. We can have a discussion on any proposed changes, take a vote to see if they will be incorporated into the first reading, which will be published. All right, this is Commonwealth of Kentucky, Oldham County Ordinance Number KOC 16-820-207, an ordinance establishing regulation of fireworks within the county, providing for enforcement and penalties. Whereas Oldham County Fiscal Court has the authority pursuant to statute House Bill 33, which amended KRS Chapter 227, expanding the type of fireworks that are permitted to be sold and used in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And whereas KRS 227.750 subsection 4 authorizes local government entities to enact ordinances relating to the sales and use of fireworks within their jurisdiction. And whereas Oldham County Fiscal Court has determined it is desirable that the conditions, terms, dates, and times concerning the use and sale of fireworks within the county be regulated. And whereas Oldham County Fiscal Court has, or by enactment of this ordinance, shall require persons or entities engaged in the sale of consumer fireworks as defined in KRS 227.702, which are generally described as aerial devices and audible ground devices, to have a business license, meet certain safety standards, and as established and applicable federal, state, and local law, maintain minimal levels of liability insurance, and be at all times in possession of a valid permit issued by the state fire marshal and a valid permit issued by the Oldham County Fiscal Court where required under this ordinance, and be located in the designated zoning districts. And therefore be it enacted by and ordained by the Fiscal Court of Oldham County, Kentucky, that the following is now adopted as law within Oldham County. Section 1, the purpose. The ordinance shall be known and may be cited as the Fireworks Enforcement Code. Definitions. The following words, terms, and/or phrases, when used in this division, shall have the meanings ascribed to them in this section, except where the context clearly indicates a different meaning. Aerial or audible ground devices shall mean those consumer fireworks described in KRS 227.702, subsections 2 and 3 only. Consumer fireworks shall have the same meaning as described as KRS 227.702. Fireworks shall have the same meaning as in KRS 227.702, except it shall not include those described in KRS 227.702, subsection 1, ground and handheld sparklers. Fireworks retailer shall mean any person, business entity, association, or corporation of any kind which offers for sale, exposes for sale, sells at retail or wholesale, or keeps with the intent to sell any consumer fireworks as described in KRS 227.702, subsections 2 and/or 3. The use and sale of fireworks. The use or sale of consumer fireworks, as defined in KRS 227.702, is prohibited except as set forth herein. The sale or use of fireworks other than consumer fireworks, including display fireworks, as defined in KRS 227.706, are subject to the applicable restrictions of state and federal law and are further prohibited at all times within the county without the written approval of the judge executive or his designee. Section 4, fireworks in county limits. Fireworks and consumer fireworks shall not be used, ignited, fired, or exploded in Oldham County except as follows. A, consumer fireworks must be handled, stored, used, possessed, and sold in accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local law. B, aerial and/or audible ground devices as defined in KRS 207.702, subsections 2 and 3, may only be used, ignited, fired, or exploded during the dates and times specified in this ordinance. Any and all other dates and times are prohibited. Aerial or audible ground devices may only be used, ignited, fired, or explode between the dates and times listed. 10 a.m. on December 31st to 2 a.m. on January 1st, 10 a.m. on January 1st to 10 p.m. on January 1st, July 3rd, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., July 4th, 10 a.m. to midnight, Memorial Day, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Labor Day, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Notwithstanding any provision herein to the contrary, and regardless of the day of the week which July 4th falls, persons may use, ignite, fire, or explode fireworks or consumer fireworks on any date specifically named or designated by the fiscal court as the date to celebrate Independence Day for the country, if other than the actual date of July 4th between the hours of 10 a.m. and midnight. No person may ignite, fire, explode any fireworks or consumer fireworks as defined in KRS .702, subsections 2 and 3, if they are under the age of 18, or use any listed consumer fireworks in KRS 207.702, subsection 1, when they are under the age of 8 and may not not accompanied by a parent or an adult guardian, or within 200 feet of any structure, motor vehicle, whether operational or non-operational, as defined in KRS 227.715, subsection 11. Consumer fireworks defined in KRS 227.702, subsection 1, are not restricted by date, but are prohibited after 11 p.m. Section 5, fireworks retailers. Fireworks retailers within the county shall submit an application for retail fireworks permit to the Oldham County Police Department at least 15 days prior to the applicant's desired effective date for the retail fireworks permit on a form approved by the county judge executive or his designee, which shall at minimum require the submission of the name, phone number, and permanent address of the applicant. In the event the applicant desires to operate multiple locations, a separate application does not have to be submitted for each location. However, each location must have a separate fireworks sales permit. Additionally, all applications must include a detailed site plan for the proposed location, the address of the proposed location, and contact information for the owner of the proposed location, if other than the applicant. And B, provide proof of registration with the state fire marshal in accordance with applicable provisions of Chapter 227 of the revised statutes. C, obtain a signature on the application form from the Oldham County Planning and the Development Office indicating the proposed location on the application is zoned appropriately for conduct of such business. And D, provide a certificate of insurance, other valid proof of general liability insurance in the amount of not less than $1 million per occurrence, which shall remain in effect at all times while engaged in the permitted activity. And E, pay a permit fee established by resolution by Oldham County Fiscal Court. In the event that an applicant wishes to operate more than one geographical location within the county, each location must have a separate permit, and the permit is subject to the applicable permit fee. F, the permit periods will not be no less than 30 days nor more than 60 days. In either event, the permit will list a starting date and an expiration date. And G, comply with all aspects of applicable provisions of Chapter 227 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, the International Building Code with Kentucky amendments adopted, and the NFPA, the 1124 National Fire Protection Act, and not offer for sale, expose for sale, sell at retail or wholesale, or keep with the intent to sell any consumer fireworks other than those described in KRS 227.702, subsections 1, 2, and 3, and not allow any person under 18 years of age to sell consumer fireworks, not give, offer for sale, or sell any consumer fireworks to a person under 18 years of age, and not offer for sale, expose for sale, or sell consumer fireworks between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., and any fireworks found in any firework retail location or in possession of individuals that violate this ordinance may be confiscated by authorized personnel. Section 6, fireworks permit. A valid retail fireworks permit must be prominently displayed at each location at all times during hours of operation. The judge executive or his designee may revoke or suspend any retail fireworks permit at any site which is in violation of this ordinance or Chapter 227 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes or any other Oldham County ordinances. Section 7, penalties. Any person or entity convicted of violating paragraph 4A of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor and shall be subject to a fine of not less than $100 nor more than $500 or imprisonment for a period not to exceed 30 days or both. Each day a violation occurs shall constitute a separate offense. Any person convicted of violating any provision of this ordinance other than paragraph 4 shall be guilty of a violation and subject to a fine of not less than $50 nor more than $500. In the event any violation of federal, state, or local ordinance or fireworks, in any event of a violation, fireworks may be confiscated. The provisions of this ordinance are severable, and if any section, phrase, or provision hereof shall for any reason be declared invalid or unenforceable, such declaration shall not affect the validity of the remainder hereof. Where any provision of this ordinance is in conflict with any other provision of applicable state, federal, or local regulations, or any permit issued pursuant to this ordinance or the Kentucky Revised Statutes, the more restrictive provisions shall apply, or all ordinance or parts of the ordinance in conflict herewith are hereby repealed and superseded to the extent of such conflict. That is the ordinance, and I think from now on I'll have the clerk read the the ordinances. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to it, but, okay. Magistrate Sparks.
A couple of things. On page 2, well, for starters, I know that you use the reference to the KRS so that we don't have to update our ordinance every time that KRS changes, but it's very difficult to understand what is and isn't allowed by reading this ordinance. It's almost, I would say, if we ever show this ordinance to anybody and say, here's the rules, we've got to include the most current copy of that KRS 207.702, because, you read through this whole thing, and I have no idea what is or isn't permitted in the way of fireworks, because you use by reference the entire time. So I just got a problem with that. I understand the reasoning, but your average Joe that comes down to get a permit or whatever is going to have trouble complying.
Mr. Carter, would you be aware if the state were to change any of these statutes, do they change the wording in the statute, they would not change the statute number at that point?
It depends on what they're changing. But we would have to go back, the way this ordinance is written, we would have to go back and rewrite our ordinance probably, if they change the statute number. But normally, they don't normally do an entire reworking of a series of statutes concerning fireworks or anything like that. They would repeal it and replace it. Normally, they would replace it, I think, with I don't know. But we would have to go back and change our ordinance if they did.
Would you be satisfied, and this objection, I think, is valid, would you be satisfied if we included copies of the ordinance with our application form attached?
Yeah,
Maybe stapled to it, or?
Yeah, and maybe where we have this posted on our website, we could have a link to that KRS and maybe have a simple list that says, these are examples of what's included in this ordinance, but it's not a final list. You must go look at the most current KRS.
Okay.
You know-
This,
you know what I'm
Chief
talking
Smith worked on this
Right.
extensively.
Actually, the KRS is already law, and our ordinance is built upon state law already.
Yeah.
So despite the fact that they know it in this ordinance or not, it's already spelled out in state law. So if you don't know it anyway, it's there.
I understand that. I'm just trying to make it an efficient rule,
Right.
for our people out in the community.
We could include the types of, actually, Master Don and I talked about this earlier. We could include the types per section, like subsections.
Yeah,
They specify them. We don't necessarily have to specify them in detail state law, but we could certainly include like sparklers.
yeah. No, I'm saying we don't have to put it inside this ordinance. I just
Sim-
want to
similar
make
to,
sure
real
that
quickly.
it's attached as examples and it's on our website as examples. So people
Similar
can
to,
find
the
reference.
different ones are ground and held sparklers, that's subsection 1.
Okay.
And basically it describes what they are, dipped wick sparklers, wire sparklers, fountains, cone fountains, illuminating torches, the wheels, the spinners, more sparklers, smoke devices. The aerial devices, subsection 2, are sky rockets, bottle rockets, missile-type rockets, helicopters, aerial spinners. We could just identify them by name, so we don't take all the space up in the ordinance. We can just lay them out by name, if that would be sufficient.
No, like I'm saying, they don't have to be inside the ordinance. I just want to reference,
Okay.
have a reference when people come to talk to you or they look on our website.
We can
Next
do that.
is page 2, section 4B. You've got a list of dates and times that it can be done, that fireworks can be used. I kind of object to the limitation on these because, I'll give you an example, Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is not in here. We don't have a lot of Chinese in Oldham County, so a lot of people might not care. But actually, my family celebrates Chinese New Year because a lot of Asian families do. So you've got it restricted here. There's no cultural exemption or anything like that. What do we do if somebody's shooting off fireworks on Chinese New Year?
If they're violating ordinance and state law, they'd be cited. It's not our state law either.
Is it in state law, these restrictions on just these dates?
No?
All
They're
right.
it's in some state law, yes. There's some of it's in there, but not particularly all of it, no. This is ours. This is our restriction.
Okay. But that's what I'm saying is there's a problem. There's no exemption in there for any kind of a cultural
That-
difference.
Would that question be addressed in Section 3 where it says, these fireworks are prohibited at all times within the county? Well, let me put it this way. Can the county judge or his designee, does it have the flexibility here to let that person make, somebody comes and says we can't begin to anticipate all of the potential celebrations that any particular group of people may have. I mean, it's a sink in my eye, whatever, 5th of May and Chinese New Year and so forth. Most fireworks in the United States are celebrated in relation with holidays of the United States, not holidays associated with other countries. So,
Other cultures,
or
yeah.
other cultures. And I certainly can recognize somebody's happiness, but on the other hand, do we have in here the ability to
Well,
make an exception if requested?
Yes, sir, you do. I think under Section 3, you would.
okay.
Under Section 3?
I might point out, just kind of as an example of why I think it's relevant, there's fireworks places open up 365 days a year right across the river, right? And if they're only doing fireworks on 6 days of the year, they wouldn't have a place open all year long. So there are other times and uses for fireworks for some people. I know I don't want them going off at midnight every night, 300 days a year, but this getting down to just 6 days here kind of seems a little bit restrictive. I don't know. Has anybody else got a concern on
Magistrate
that?
Dye, maybe?
I've spent some time with this and with the chief. I think we could probably handle the cultural different thing. Chief, do you think we could work something in there to where the officer would have a discretion? In other words, we have the discretionary portion where, it's 12:05 and the officer rose up and there's little Johnny with his mom and dad and he's got 4 or 5, Roman candles left. And it's like where we have the may and the shall. Well, if you say it shall be confiscated, the officer has to take those bottle rockets. If he may take them, he said, well, hey, y'all are done for the night, go on inside, and they do. Well, couldn't we do something here to where the officer would have, outside of these dates, where we could include something about a cultural celebration? And that would bring in Cinco de Mayo and Chinese New Year, the two that you mentioned, Judge. I'm sure there are others, so I don't want to offend anybody.
We can add anything to the ordinance we want to add to it. I guess my only concern with that is if you're asking police officers to enforce it, then we're going to have to put those dates in this ordinance so they know what date's coming up.
All right.
I mean, I don't know them all.
Hey, hang on, Magistrate Greenwell?
Judge, I think on Section 3, it gives anybody that wants to do it at a time that's not listed, a way of doing it by just calling you up or coming by and seeing you and getting written permission to do it. So there it is.
That seems like a sticky way to have a law. It's a law unless you come talk to the judge.
I guess when we first started looking at this, maybe a little extra history, we had some issues with complaints from neighborhoods about the fireworks, excessive fireworks, the times they were doing it, some of the alleged damage that was done by some of the fireworks. So we looked at, how do you minimize that? How do you control it? I can tell you right now, we are not going to be able to make every run on a fireworks complaint. July 4th, we're not, but we will make the ones that are the most serious. So we approach this from, number one, a safety point of view. You know, how do we do it from safety? There is a safety concern here. We also looked at a nuisance to the county, the residents. You know, how are we going to handle this nuisance when the complaints come in? How are we going to respond to this? And then we looked at, do we regulate the people who sell these things? So those are kind of our three overriding goals when we looked at it. So that's how come we focus mainly on national holidays that people ordinarily would buy fireworks to use. And we looked at the hours of the use and the type they're using, so we can perhaps limit some of the safety issues. Increase the safety issues and limit some of the nuisances. So that's really how we approach this. There's many days people use fireworks. When I was 16 years old, I used them all the time, mostly illegally, you know. But those are things you have to control. It's a
All right.
misdemeanor. Statute of
We got
limitations.
a couple
over.
more, a couple more. In that same section under D, it says, you can't ignite them if you're under the age of 18 or listed or under the age of 8, not accompanied by a parent or adult, within 200 feet of any structure, motor vehicle, operational, non-operational. First, if you say any structure, that means the shed in somebody's backyard, right?
That's state law.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's good. It says non-operational vehicle. I mean, if there's
There's a junkyard, you set a junkyard on fire, yeah, we got an issue.
okay, fine. The last one, E, I don't think that sentence makes sense. I think it's missing something. I think it says, consumer fireworks defined are not restricted by a date but are prohibited after 11 p.m. Shouldn't it have like use of consumer fireworks?
If you prefer,
I don't know.
Refer back to the first
I
line.
mean, if you prefer.
Yeah.
You know, this number E, this section E are your sparklers, your cones. You know, we talked about this in the police department. A lot of the officers have young kids. I mean, they have parties for their kids. They have sparklers and cones and things. And do we really want to restrict those year-round, or do we want to restrict the ones that are the safety issues and the nuisances? Well, we want to restrict those.
My last question, all right. On page 3, K, which is almost at the bottom of the page, all right? It says, no offer for sale, exposure for sale, or sell, et cetera, hours of 10 a.m., except between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. What if Walmart has a display set up and they're open 24 hours a day? Do they have to physically go lock up that display like we used to do, you do with liquor on Sunday morning? Or do they have to cover it up and secure it? Or can somebody at 10:30 at night when they're at Walmart buy some fireworks?
We could modify that if you like. What do you want to add in it?
I'm saying I would say, I would like it to say not at those stalls on the side of the road, if you ask me. But
All right, we didn't want to get into defining a seasonal retailer to a permanent retailer. You know, perhaps what we need to add in there then, if you want to limit anything, is you cannot sell category subsection 2 and 3.
okay.
And allow the sparklers, the cones, and everything else that we allow year-round.
The small stuff that's at
Right.
Walmart
That
all
way,
the
if we
time.
added those two, then that would pretty well, I think, resolve what you're talking about.
Now, I personally am not aware of, let's say, big box retailers selling fireworks. They do?
They sell them in those
All
big
right.
package bags.
They do, okay, but
yeah.
It's a
I'm not-
seasonal
Seasonal
thing they
thing,
bring
okay.
out, and they're like big boxes, you know, they're like 50 bucks.
And they're not like the
mean,
hardcore stuff.
I'm not particularly offended, let's say, or concerned about even putting limits on those times. We don't allow we have other times when our alcoholic beverage thing, for example, we don't allow you to sell around the clock. We have times when those products are available for sale.
I
So,
got
what's the
no
difference here?
problem. I was just trying to think of enforcement, and you're going to have Walmart down there being required to go cover up their stuff, their display.
I just think they're required not to run it through the cash register.
That's exactly
Okay,
right.
all right,
That's
fair
it
enough.
Right there. Because I see people all the time trying to buy beer on on Sunday morning, and they just don't know the rules. And the cashier says, I can't sell it to you until noon. So they
Okay.
don't try to lock up the coolers, they just don't sell it to them at the cash register.
Right. I mean, fair playing field is fair playing field.
I just didn't want to put a burden on them to have to go take down the display or something in the evenings.
Well, they just don't sell it.
Okay.
One more.
Magistrate Dye.
You know, Chief, as much as we went over this, and I'm seeing something right here that just glares at me, and I don't know why I didn't pick it up before. On July the 3rd, I'm sorry, on January the 1st, you've got it, the second point on page 2, subsection 4B, it's B, section 4B. Why would we allow fireworks to be ignited from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on New Year's Day?
People are still celebrating.
I mean,
Not
should,
me.
is there, well, there are some people that, yes, are still celebrating at 10 a.m., but don't you think that's a little early? I
Well,
mean,
I guess when we thought about, what time would people get up on the first and maybe fire some fireworks that they did the night before, we thought probably by 10 a.m., the normal person's up moving around. That wouldn't be that much of a nuisance to the neighbors. It's just, we just, no particular reason, other than we thought that'd be a nice hourly start.
10 a.m. is
we
better
can-
than 9.
Yeah, we could change it.
unless there's a preponderance to change it on the court, I'm okay with it, but I'm just thinking more, it's just gonna, I get the calls about the fireworks, okay? I just think that you're gonna get calls, somebody say, why are these people out here at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, just happens to be a Sunday morning that particular year, firing fireworks off? So I just think it would cause you all to have more
We
work.
could move it till noon.
If
mean,
it's the
if the
preponderance
court-
of the courts want to do that.
Court so desires. We used to put them in gutters, that was really fun. Makes a nice echo.
Yes, the reason for some of this is to give people an opportunity to shoot fireworks off. And we put in only certain days because they're a nuisance to some people. And I get calls about it, not generally from my district, but from other people's district. And allowing people to shoot them off, yes, they enjoy it, but sometimes their neighbors don't, especially if they have a thoroughbred horse, and they're pretty high-strung anyway. And they can go through a 4-board fence like that if you spook them too much. So we're trying to give people an opportunity to shoot them off, but have some limitations on this to allow people to have a good time, but not be an overly nuisance to some neighbors. So that's why we incorporated those particular dates and times. And on 10 p.m., January 1st, people are going back to work the next day generally. And so that was a cutoff point. And so that was the reasoning behind that.
These times are consistent, 10 a.m., 10 a.m., 10 a.m. If you have a patchwork of times, it can be confusing, I think. Magistrate Greenwell was next.
I think, Judge, the second bullet point isn't there for telling you when you can, as for when you can't. In other words, on the day before, on New Year's Eve, you can shoot them until 2 a.m., but on January the 1st, you better not shoot them after 10 p.m. So it's telling you when you can't more than it's telling you when you can, is my interpretation of it.
Because usually everybody's off on the first, and getting ready to go to work on the second, so, right,
So
that's
that,
exactly right.
Magistrate Dye.
so that 8 hours between I got to say, between 2 a.m. on the 1st and 10 a.m. on the 1st, that's when they've iced some down and went to sleep, and then they're going to crank it back up in the morning? Okay, I just want to be sure.
Better not be doing it after 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
They'll be out by then. They're run by Walmart.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Very small thing, Judge, on page 2, item C. When you're reading, I believe you read designated by fiscal court as the date to celebrate Independence Day for the country, but it actually says county. Either one will work. I just didn't know which one you intended.
I meant to say
It should
County.
be county.
I
should be
probably
county.
said country, it just,
No, it says county.
But the judge said country.
Oh, he
read it.
said
I
country.
wanted to make sure he didn't want it to be.
all right, so does anybody else, would anybody want to make a motion that any of this be altered in some way? Commissioner Sparks.
All right, page 3, section K, like I said, I reread it and I'm trying to understand this. It says, not offer for sale, comma, expose for sale, comma, or sell consumer fireworks. What does expose for sale mean? Because that sounds to me like be displayed.
It would be merchandising, yes. I
Yeah.
would read it as that.
I would suggest we remove the expose for sale. Because that sounds like what we were talking about, a display. You know, the next one that says, or sell consumer fireworks, that covers not selling it at the point of. Is that okay with that?
All right, anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? All right, so your motion is to delete the term exposed for sale in order to just accommodate larger permanent location stores that may have these
Some kind of
items
display.
inside, that store's still open. All right,
Just
so,
amend
Yeah.
the statute.
any further, Magistrate Eldridge?
Just to play devil's advocate, Judge, you know, I think one of the things that we're all trying to do is get the roadside people off. You know, if you take that out, there's nothing to keep them from being open there, everything advertised, and then the only thing that keeps them from selling is the fact that a police officer happens to come by while they're there. You know, I know like the tents in LaGrange are open all night long. Mr. Carter, do you have something?
I was just going to say that's a misreading of what it means. It means exposed for sale. If it can be exposed but not for sale. That means if you have it out and it's there exposed for sale, then that's a violation of the statute. But if you're not selling it, it's not a violation of the statute.
Well, in the grocery stores now, they don't cover up beer on
Right,
Sunday morning.
right. But if you take that out, you're changing the meaning of the ordinance.
So you recommend we take it, we don't
leave it.
take it out?
Yes, right, that's what he's
Yes.
saying. You,
I'll withdraw that motion. I'll take his word for it, and I'll withdraw that
right,
motion.
I think it's,
All right, I have one other. On page 2, I know at section 3 you mentioned written approval of the judge executive or his designee, you know. I'm just throwing this out here. I wrote the language in 10 seconds. Tell me what you guys think of it. What have you said? Reasonable additional dates and times due to established religions or cultural activities may receive exemption with proper review by fireworks ordinance administrator.
Who is a fireworks ordinance administrator?
You are.
No? We don't have a fireworks ordinance administrator identified
Oh,
in here.
all right. Well, I guess the judge executive is then.
I
Just,
personally feel that we don't need, I think it's clear enough as it is, that if exceptions come up, you can take them into
You know,
consideration.
if you want it, under section B, section 4, subsection B, under the bullet points, we could put something as simple as other dates and times approved by judge executive.
okay, I was trying to slide in just the cultural, religious
Yeah.
differences for reference, but you know what?
Yeah,
I'm not
with other
gonna,
dates
I'm
and
not gonna
times
sweat it,
approved.
and I don't wanna spend 2 hours on it, so.
Sorry, with other dates and times approved by judge executive would give the person the option to come to you and say, Judge, we have the Chinese New Year we like to celebrate, can we do that?
Right.
And that way you could do it.
Can I ask the county attorney a question? I got a question for you. If we leave this in here kind of as a carte blanche to, the judge executive will make a decision on a case-by-case exception, are we going to open ourselves up to any kind of issues with people saying, well, he didn't let us have it, you know, any favoritism, et cetera, et cetera?
Anytime you try to do something like this, you're going to open yourself up for that kind of criticism. But there's no other way to write it. It's the county judge executive or his designee, and I would be willing to bet that it's going to be the chief of police, it's going to be his designee to do that. And I think we just have to have faith in our officials that they're going to act wisely. I mean, that's what the voters elected us to do, and I expect that that's what we'll do.
Anybody who feels aggrieved has the option of coming to the fiscal court and speaking in open comment and, let's say, presenting their case for public scrutiny.
So are you saying that if somebody was rejected by you and they came to fiscal court and we voted here in court to approve them, you would change that approval?
Well, I would say that we would take the consensus of the court here into consideration. I think we're, picking dust out of pepper
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, no problem,
There
Judge.
isn't, I don't think we're going to have any issues here. We're trying to provide some safety features, but not take an individual's good time away, but strike the balance between safety in the community and enjoying the celebration as well. So,
Judge, can I recap real quickly so we know we're all in the same sheet of music? On page 1, under fireworks, there is a KRS cited 722-702. I'm going to check that, make sure that is 702. That might be 700. I believe it is 700 actually in retrospect. We're going to list the types of fireworks that are allowed by name only. There'll probably be about a dozen or so of them. We will put them underneath this to make sure they're listed, like sparklers, cones, firecrackers and stuff. We will do that. On page 2, the only change I saw, Magistrate Di and I agreed earlier that on the first 2 bullet points under B, we would start with the month first, since we did that down below. So December 31st, 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. on January 1st. We will list a date and then follow the time to make it read a little bit better. Now, do you want me to add one extra bullet point here that's saying other dates and times must be approved by Judge Executive? Just to show that there is an
we'll take
option.
the sense of the court here. Magistrate Leslie?
I'm a little hesitant about doing that.
Okay.
We got into an issue some years ago with signage out on the courthouse, and we got sued. And because we had all kinds of banners out there from, the KKK to everything else like that, we ended up settling and having to pay I think it was the ACLU, $5,000 for their attorney's fees. So I just assume let's not get into that, because if someone comes in and says, oh, I want to do it this time, and then why didn't you give it to me on this time, you're really opening up a can of worms that I don't think we want to go down that road.
We delete that section.
All right, leave
Okay.
that out, please.
Under D of the same section, section 4, Magistrate Di and I talked earlier this morning, and we talked in order to make that more understandable, we might break the paragraph D into 3 bullet points. Stop after 18, and then make from or use as E. Go down to stop after guardian and make or within 200 feet the next letter, so it reads better, so they're not all piled up into one paragraph. But they say the exact same thing. They're just not all in one paragraph.
You just
So
stick
we're
in
just
there.
going to change that a bit, and I will do that. The page 4, under not offer for sale, under K, we are going to leave that as is.
What page, sir?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
right,
page
leave.
3, page 3,
got it.
K, we are going to leave that as is. Is that correct, Ms. Carter?
Right.
Okay, we'll leave that as is, and other than that, I can think that's the only changes.
Anybody else have
Judge?
anything?
Chief, that is 700 on
It is 700, okay, thank you, I thought that was. Thank you. I will make that one change. Then I will list the individual fireworks underneath that.
Magistrate Leslie?
Judge, I'm amenable to what the chief has stated. I think he's put an awful lot of work into this ordinance, and he's written it and rewritten it, and I think it's 7 times. And his staff has put a lot of work into this, you know, from our first initial meeting, which you weren't aware that we were working on this. So, you know, and one magistrate wanted to make this peddler's ordinance. Absolutely disagree with that. This should be a standalone ordinance specific to fireworks. And so I'm amenable to what the chief said and his changes, because he's the one who's ultimately, and the first responders are going to be the ones who are going to have to be the ones who go out there and handle this ordinance. And this is what he feels is reasonable, but at least, you know, not everybody's going to get what they want, but we're trying to give as many people as we can something without being a nuisance completely to others.
Anybody else want to comment on these inclusions in the first reading? All right, thank you. We'll publish this, and then we'll have our next reading and second reading in 30 days.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda here has to do with erosion control bond, and Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. We have an erosion control bond release, and Beth Stuber is going to talk to us about that.
This erosion control bond is for a commercial structure, which is the Dollar General store, the new one, in front of Crestwood Station. Everything's complete, and they have asked for the release of their erosion control bond in the amount of $2,250.
Make that motion.
Magistrate.
Make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this erosion control bond for Crestwood, for the Dollar General store in Crestwood be released. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next item is the Law Enforcement Protection Program grant request. Happy to welcome Deputy Chief Bob Noble.
Judge, members of the court, we're asking fiscal court's approval for an application for a Homeland Security grant to replace our outdated tasers. We currently use X. I think all of you got a copy of it. If you have any questions, try to answer them for you.
Right, you're asking for 27,000, isn't
I
it?
think it's 20, what's the total is?
23,
Yes.
261, 23,261 for tasers. New, your tasers are kind of
They're all the
dated and
X-26s were
wearing out.
outdated. Taser will no longer service those. You can't get parts for them, and when they go bad, they're just garbage. You can't do anything with them. They've replaced that with an X-26P. I don't know what the differences are, but that's the latest and greatest.
Is there a motion that I be allowed to sign this grant
So moved.
request?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Magistrate Dye.
Yes. You said it's for, it's got several things listed here. Is that just for the taser software unit, and the cartridge, or just the taser?
That'd be tasers, the power magazines, the batteries, cartridges. The only thing they don't cover is training cartridges. We'll have to budget that through a normal budget process.
So the other 2 items, you're not trying to go after the body armor, the vest, or
No,
ammunition?
strictly tasers at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, I think we should let the deputy check both of them out himself, and he can tell us if there's any difference.
I will forego that, I think. Any other discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Bob. Appreciate it. All right, the next item here has to do with the AOC building reimbursement agreement, and Melissa Horn.
You have before you the reimbursement form that is sent to us every year by the Administrative Office of the Courts for the building, the courthouse building across the street. Our annual estimated reimbursement this coming year will be $311,200. This compares to the current year, which was $323,800. It's a 4% decrease in what we will receive from the state.
I think that 4% decrease represents the 4% figure we've heard that's gone across a lot of state government reimbursements. Is there a motion to accept this?
I'd like to make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next item is the accepting an orphan segment of road from KYTC. Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. This is similar to when we accepted Kentucky 393 when they built the new one, and we renamed it Centerfield Drive. And this is just a way for us to work with the state whenever they come up with a new project, that we will take over part of the old road and maintain it. And I think in this situation, that's fair. It's in Magistrate Eldridge's district. He's been out to look at it and assured me that this seemed like a good alternative for us to do. So I'll make, or Magistrate Eldridge, would you like to?
I would make a motion, we accept that. This is a very short section of road. It's newly paved, and it's only one way. So I don't think it will give us any problems in the future. I'll make the motion, we accept that.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on it? Magistrate Sparks.
Yeah, what's along that road?
The road comes off of the new bridge, goes up past here, and then this is a very short section connecting two neighborhoods that is a one-way section.
So are there houses along it, or is it just connecting those two neighborhoods? And
There are, I believe, two houses that get access off of this roadway.
okay.
All right, this road was formerly part of New Moody until the new section of New Moody was built. And I believe last night, did LaGrange City Council take in some of New Moody? They also took in a section of some road last night that had the same number on it as we're taking in here. I don't know what it was. Do you know something, Jim, about that?
Good afternoon. You've already described the general areas, and I'm sorry I didn't bring a picture up, but the city council is asked and is taking in, thank you, a portion of the roadway. If some of you remember on New Moody, if you came from Kentucky 53, it was in the city limits to a certain point around where the wastewater treatment plant is, and then it turned into state maintenance. And that's because there was not contiguous city property along the rest of that roadway going New Moody all the way out to Elder Park Road. When the city of LaGrange and Oldham County purchased Oldham Reserve, they took it into the city. So now you had contiguous land area. So the Transportation Cabinet asked the city to take in really this piece, I'm sorry, I'm moving it, this piece of New Moody that was not in. So here's the new bridge. And then Transportation Cabinet is asking us to take this little piece of what was New Moody, and now that roadway has been moved over to this new section of roadway. So there are two houses on that little stretch of New Moody. It is still labeled as New Moody. The addresses of those two houses are still the same. And the Cabinet is asking us, since it's a one-way connecting Forest Park Drive and Meadowbrook Drive, to take it into the county road system.
And it was repaved last year, so it's probably going to be 20 years before anybody has to think about it again. If, it may be longer than that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This is roll call vote here.
Magistrate Sparks,
Yes.
Magistrate Leslie,
Yes.
Magistrate Likens,
Yes.
Madras at Logsdon,
Yes.
Madras at Dye,
Yes.
Madras at Greenwell,
Yes.
Madras at Tice,
Yes.
Madras at Eldridge,
Yes.
and Judge Vogel.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0. All right, next item has to do with a bridge over in Centerfield, and can ask our county engineer, Beth Stuber, to discuss that.
I'd like to present a contract we have from the University of Kentucky to do some repair on the bridge in Centerfield. Sorry, Phil. So I just brought you some pictures. Quickly, it shows the damage. This is an exciting project that the University of Kentucky has worked with on several state jobs, and it is a repair instead of a replacement, so we save us some significant funding. And they wrap it with a material called Cat Strong, and they'll come in and work with us. Our crews are inmate labor to get this repaired, and it's going to be 35–40% of the original replacement cost that we got for the bridge. And so this is a sole source, and so I'd like to have approval for the contract, the University of Kentucky, for $125,700.
Beth, what do they cover that coating with? Is that cast strong? They cover it with gypcrete or something?
It says they cover it with a resin. I assume it's some
Yeah.
sort of exothermal plastic.
Yeah, I've got 28 pages of documentation I can send you.
Let's
Yes.
see it after the.
But and I've got a sample of the fabric downstairs too.
I think they just,
Let's get our motion on the floor here, Magistrate Greenwell.
Judge, I'll make a motion that we allow you to sign the contract with Kentucky Transportation Center, University of Kentucky, for the Cat Strong fix on the bridge.
All right, now, any discussion, anybody else have
No, she answered.
further questions about this? Sounds like a good deal, and we're going to get get a bridge fixed that we need.
I think they just did this over Highway 71, like exit 28 or the one after
Yes,
that or something.
yes. They have. They just did one there, and they've done quite a bit under the Belvedere down in Louisville, so.
All right? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Magistrate Leslie, next item,
Yes.
Casabella Pyrotechnics.
Yes. This has gone through the Parks Committee, and Tim Curtis was the one who did the background work on this project. It's for the fireworks display on July 4th. And in the past, we've put up $7,500 for them to purchase the fireworks, but the remaining will be paid when the fireworks are set off. And I think that's the policy that our treasurer stated is the way we should do this. Total cost will be $15,000. So it's my motion that we do this.
Second.
I moved and seconded that we enter into a contract with Casablanca Pyrotechnics for the annual July 4th fireworks show at Wendell Moore Park. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-1. Next, we have under item K here, should have if you don't have it in my book, does anybody have it in their book? Does everybody have it?
Yes.
All right. I gave this for everybody else's book, but didn't get back into mine, so that's all right. What we're doing here is, we have this property over at Hickory Hill subdivision that we took as a part of a failure by a contractor there to complete his work on the road. We've had this lot up for sale. We've had an offer for it for $32,000. They put forth a $500 check for goodwill. We've had the lot for sale for some time, and I think the Planning and Zoning and myself, we've come to the conclusion here that this is as good an offer as we're going to get. So I would suggest that I'd like to make a motion, we take it.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, now we're going to add some discussion here. Magistrate Leslie asked to talk about signage in the next item on the agenda, so
Right.
go ahead.
Kevin Nuss asked that I come over to his department and discuss this, and he wanted to know if I minded if anybody else wanted to come along, and I said, no, that's fine. Anybody who wishes to come is welcome. Well, much to my surprise, I had many fire chiefs, I had police department, I also had Matt from planning and development. And even though your GPS systems are good, but they don't always have it exactly in the right place. We also have a problem that when you have areas where you have two households that have a common driveway and they have a similar address, but you don't know if it's 34A or 34B. So first responders could go to the wrong house rather than to the correct house. So it covers everybody in the fire department and all the police that were there, and planning and zoning feel that there should be numbers on everybody's mailbox, both sides. You don't know which way a responder is going to be coming. And they'd like those to be 3 inches high, so it's reflective, so at 3 in the morning, when they're driving to someone's house, that they can easily recognize the correct address. So we'll be working on this. Kevin has sent me several ordinances that we'll be discussing, but all the fire departments, all the police departments, and planning and zoning felt this is something we should do. It could mean 1 minute getting to somebody's house and saving them, and 1 minute being off and not saving them. So we'll be bringing that to you in the future, but I did want to alert you that they're doing that. On the Crusade for Children, the fire departments are going to have a postcard, and they will be giving that out to people, asking them, to put these 3-inch high letters on their mailboxes or a post near the road. And it was unanimous by all the fire chiefs, police departments, and planning and development, and EMS. And if there's any other further questions, I know Kevin's here if anybody has a question for him.
Does anyone have a question regarding signage or lettering of your mailbox with your address?
Are you saying this is going to be an ordinance that's going to be required?
Yes,
So,
that's what they're asking for.
so you're going to fine people if they don't have the numbers up?
We haven't gotten that far into the discussion.
Here come Mr. Nuss may be able to answer some
There
questions.
already is an ordinance in effect. It was passed in 1987. If you don't have your house numbers listed where they can be seen by emergency responders, you can be fined. It needs to be updated because the letters don't say that they need to be on the mailbox, but there is an ordinance in effect in Oldham County, yes. It's from 1987.
And having it on both sides and everything like that?
That's not listed. It just says it has to be displayed where emergency responders can see it, but what Magistrate Leslie was talking about, putting it on both sides, making them a minimum height requirement would be consistent with what Metro's doing, Shelby County and other counties as well. It really is a problem. EMS had a run the other night where they had no idea on the street, they couldn't find an address anywhere, and so it really is a life-saving issue.
Well, I can validate that the GPS isn't right, because if you program my address in, it tells you to stop a block away. And-
We can give them turn-by-turn instructions,
Yeah.
we can basically be TomTom for the emergency responders, but still at 3 o'clock in the morning, if they can't see that mailbox or can't see that number, GPS does them absolutely no good at all.
And how much do you guys enforce this?
Well, it would be through our planning and development, I guess, code enforcement individual, but I mean, the ordinance has been on the books since 1987. It just needs to be updated.
Judge, are you going to turn your enforcement guys loose on everybody who doesn't have numbers on their
But
mailbox?
we're not
on both
trying to
sides?
enforce it. What we want to do is do an educational campaign. I told the judge this morning in the staff meeting that I talked to Jay about doing a video, putting a press release out. We're going to get these postcards printed up, so hopefully through public information, we can, instead of disciplining somebody, we can do it through public education, because our big campaign is, if you drive in front of your house at 3 o'clock in the morning or when it's dark and you can't see your numbers on your mailbox, how do you expect emergency responders to see it? So if you want, if your life is in danger and you're having a heart attack and you want EMS to find you, it's incumbent upon you to have the numbers up.
And just to clarify, it doesn't have to be on your mailbox. It can be on the post that your mailbox is attached to, right?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be up to the court's pleasure as to where it would be. It would have to be visible enough to where it can be seen from either side of the roadway, because a lot of people put the mailbox numbers on one side, but not the other, and it just depends which side they come in on, so.
Right, there's no intent to discipline people, it's to encourage them to adopt safety practices. I can only think of one house now in Pee Wee Valley I'm going to make sure has an address on it.
I'll tell you right now.
Had the code for it man down there.
I tell you right now, I have them on one side of my mailbox, and I bought them to put on the other side, but I never did. So I'll have them
well,
up before the judge can get down there and
It
say.
really is a public safety issue, though. And we want folks to be able us to get to them as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you,
You're
Kevin.
welcome to my house anytime, Judge.
I can't find it, I don't know what your address is.
Judge, Kevin, I just want to throw this out here. This is my former life as a deputy sheriff, not seeing house numbers on mailboxes and stuff. It is hard to find stuff in the middle of the night. And if people are going to go out and take heed to what you say, just do your first responder a favor, get a number that has reflectivity to it, and don't get the script numbers. They don't always look exactly the way they're supposed to be. And if you put them on a post, put them high enough for the snow plow, doesn't cover them up. So
Yeah, the script has been talked about in the ordinance, and the height and things like that.
it can be difficult.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Just want to note
All right,
something.
sure.
The postcard will identify some of these things. It's two-sided. I've seen it today, and it looks really good. They've done a lot of work on it.
Right,
and
and
the
the
reason
cards are
behind
going to
it.
be distributed by the fire department during the crusade collection, so when they see you at an intersection, they'll give you a card, so. All right, that's great, thank you. Next item here has to do with hiring an administrative services company to handle our COBRA. Tina Schaaf has been working on this.
Yes, there's an agreement for administrative services for McGregor and Associates to take over our COBRA administration. Right now, we have a company named Ceridian that's doing it, and Humana is getting rid of Ceridian and going with someone else. So we would rather use McGregor, who we already use for our HRA, and we already have them set up on an EDI file on our system. So it would be much easier and no additional training on my part to put the people in our system. They're already in our system. I wouldn't have to learn on another system, an outside vendor that Humana wants us to use. So we would like you to sign this agreement with McGregor. They will administer our COBRA. It's no cost to the county, as our broker picks up the expense for that. So.
Make that recommendation.
Moving second to discussion to change our administrative services company for COBRA servicing to
McGregor.
McGregor and Associates. Discussion. Magistrate Greenwell?
Tina, this makes perfect sense, but is this a service that is also offered by CAECO? Do they do COBRA?
I'm not sure. I guess if you would go with CAECO for your coverage, yes, probably they would go. Not for our all lines fund, for insurance, though, I don't know, for medical, vision, and dental.
Just curious.
Magistrate Greenwell? Magistrate Sparks?
Yeah, that's twice he did that today, Greenwell. You should be
Well.
insulted.
Just weeks ago.
Did you have like a open bidding for these services to offer, pick somebody? You just picked one in particular one? You didn't go out there and, have,
It's not costing us any money.
okay.
This service was already in our medical coverage with Humana at free of charge. They wanted to change vendors on us, which would mean I would have to learn their system on how to put the information in there. Well, we already have a company that we use for that type of service. They offer COBRA administration as well, and it wasn't going to cost us money, and we already have an EDI file. It just didn't seem, and we're not being charged. So no, we didn't think to go
All right,
outside.
that's fair enough. That's, justifiable. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, now we'll move on to personnel actions. Ms. Schaaf?
I actually have two for the police department. I got one later after I had typed this up. There's two resignations at the police department. We have Detective Griffin Lyford, effective April 24th. And then we have Officer Dwayne Durrett, effective May 15th.
Who was the second one, Tina?
Dwayne Durrett.
Motion to accept?
I so move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. We thank these officers for their service and wish them well in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judge.
Next item here is we have an opening that has come up here on the Pee Wee Valley Fire Protection District Board. I'd like to thank Beach Craigmile for his service for the last 3 years. He's done an excellent job on the board, and appreciate what he has done to help move that board forward. In his place, I'd like to recommend Otis R. Rex Florence. He's a businessman in Pee Wee Valley. Basically, he's a business broker, buys and sells businesses. He's a member of the Pee Wee Valley City Council, and I think will do an excellent job in helping establish a good relationship between the City Council and the Fire Department, and will bring additional business expertise to the board.
Judge, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next, I have another appointment here, and this would be to the Oldham County Code Enforcement Board. Should have that somewhere in your binder. Teresa Black has been a member of the board. Teresa is, retiring. She has, it's become a little bit of a problem with commitments and time. So in her place, I'd like to appoint Larry Chandler to the remainder of her term. Larry is former warden at the Kentucky State Reformatory, chairman of the Kentucky Parole Board. He's been in the enforcement business for quite a while, and I think he'll do an excellent job on our board. So I'd like to I'll make a motion that we appoint Larry Chandler to the Code Enforcement Board.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now, I would like to move that pursuant to KRS 61.810 subsection C, pending litigation, the board adjourn into executive session.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Earn our money today.
Fireworks ordinance, I forgot. Oh, my manager answered the call for me, but
Hey, JD, if you put your numbers on your mailbox